What you're about to hear is not a rumor, not a blog headline, and not a fan theory. It's a question. One single question, asked out loud, on camera, by a professional journalist, to a world champion, about a grown man who has been famous for 20 years. And that one question has now detonated everything. A marriage. A divorce case. A brand new relationship. All of it cracking apart in public, and all of it traceable back to 6 little words that nobody, not one single person in this man's life, has ever been able to answer. 3 different women. 3 separate interviews. 3 completely unconnected moments on camera. And every single one of them was asked the exact same question about the exact same man. What does Papoose do for a living? And every single one of them, y'all, froze. Stuttered. Laughed. Deflected. Not one of them could answer it. Not the radio host who gets paid to do research. Not the woman who slept next to him for almost 20 years. And not the world champion who is supposedly building a future with him right now. 3 women, 1 question, 0 answers. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why that question is the most dangerous question in hip-hop right now, because the answer to it is quietly blowing up a marriage, a divorce case, and a brand new relationship all at the same time. So let's get into it, because this one is layered. It all started with what should have been a softball interview. Claressa Shields, the GWOAT, the undisputed champ, sat down for what she thought was a standard press run. She's promoting, she's smiling, she's giving the usual champ energy. And then the host, a professional journalist, a woman whose entire job is asking questions and doing research, leans in and asks about Papoose. Simple enough, right? He's been by her side at every event. He's in the front row at her fights. He's all over her page. So the host asks the most natural question in the world. What does he do? What does Papoose do for a living? And y'all, the room went silent. Because Claressa Shields, a woman who has never once been caught off guard inside a ring, got caught completely off guard outside of one. She couldn't answer it. She stumbled through it. And the part that had the entire internet rewinding the clip was her face, because you could watch the realization happen in real time. She has been with this man for over a year, and she could not describe his job. Not because she was hiding it. Because there was nothing to describe. Now hold that thought, because it gets worse. The host didn't let it go. She pressed. And that's when Claressa said the words that set everything else in motion. She said, and I want y'all to sit with this, that Papoose is not her manager. That Papoose does not get 1 single percentage of her fight money. That anybody saying otherwise is telling, her words, big lies. She didn't whisper it. She didn't soften it. She looked straight ahead and said the man gets nothing. Nada. 0. She said it in every language she could think of, and the internet immediately started asking the obvious follow-up. If he's not the manager, and he's not on the payroll, and he's not getting a cut of the money, then what exactly is he there for? Because let's be real about what we're watching. This is a woman at the absolute peak of her earning power. She's the biggest name in women's boxing. Her checks have more zeros than most people's lottery fantasies. And the man attached to her hip cannot be described by a single occupation. Not rapper, because nobody's spinning those records. Not executive, because we're about to find out what that executive job actually paid. Not manager, because the champ just denied it on camera with her whole chest. So what is the title? What goes on the tax form? What does he tell people at family dinners when they ask what he's up to these days? And before anybody says this is just the internet being messy, no. This isn't the internet. This is 3 women. On 3 separate occasions. In 3 completely different settings. All arriving at the same confused shrug. And one of those women was his wife. That's the part that turns this from gossip into something else entirely. Because when we get to what Remy Ma said, and we are going to get to it, every word of it, you're going to see that this question isn't new. This question has been hanging over Papoose for years. The only thing that changed is that somebody finally asked it out loud, on camera, to a woman who didn't know she was supposed to pretend she knew the answer. And here's where it gets genuinely wild. The question that started all of this, the question Claressa was actually answering, wasn't even about money. It was about something much more uncomfortable. The host looked at the champ and asked her how much longer she was willing to be in a relationship with somebody's husband. Somebody's husband. On camera. Direct. And the man that question was about? Nowhere to be found. Silent. Missing. Gone. And by the time this video is over, that silence is going to be the loudest thing in the entire story, because there's a very specific legal reason Papoose cannot open his mouth right now, and once you see it, every single move he's made for the past year suddenly makes perfect sense. Now let's talk about where Papoose was while all of this was unfolding, because this is the part that has people genuinely confused. The champ is sitting in that chair taking fire. The questions are about him. About his marriage. About his money. About what he does. And every one of those questions is landing on her, not him. She is doing the absorbing. She is doing the explaining. She is the one whose face is in the thumbnail, whose name is in the headline, whose reputation is taking the hit, while the man at the center of the entire storm is absolutely nowhere. And this isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern. Every single time the spotlight swings toward him, he vanishes. Every time the questions get pointed, he goes quiet. But when Claressa Shields is winning? When she's collecting checks, collecting belts, collecting headlines? Suddenly he's front and center. He's at the press conference. He's in the victory photos. He's posted up next to the champ looking like part of the operation. Funny how the visibility only flows one direction. When the light is flattering, he's available. When the light is hot, he's a ghost. Now, a lot of people have been asking why. Why doesn't he just come out and say something? One interview. One post. One little statement to take the heat off the woman he's supposedly building a life with. He could end all of this tomorrow with a paragraph. And the answer, according to everybody watching this closely, is brutally simple. He can't talk. He is legally boxed in. Because there is a divorce happening. An active, unfinished, money-on-the-table divorce. And everything that man says in public can and will be used against him in that courtroom. Think about what that means. Every question about his income is a question about what he can claim or owe. Every statement about his relationship is evidence. Every denial, every explanation, every clever little Instagram caption is a document a lawyer can print out and hold up in front of a judge. So he's trapped. He can't defend Claressa without hurting himself. He can't defend himself without confirming everything. He is in a straitjacket of his own making, and the only move available to him is silence. But here's the problem with silence, and this is the part nobody wants to say out loud. His silence has a cost, and he is not the one paying it. She is. Every day he stays quiet, Claressa Shields answers another question that was never hers to answer. Every interview becomes an interrogation about a man who won't speak for himself. She is out there fighting on two fronts, in the ring and at the podium, while he sits at home protected by a legal strategy that conveniently keeps all the shrapnel off of him and all of it on her. And just when you think the situation can't get any heavier, enter Remy Ma. Because while Claressa was fumbling that question in present tense, Remy had already answered it in past tense. Months ago. On camera. In detail. And nobody connected the dots until now. See, when Remy Ma sat down and started talking about the end of her marriage, she told a story that, at the time, sounded like standard breakup bitterness. But when you line her words up next to what Claressa just said, and next to what that radio host couldn't find in her research, the picture that emerges is not bitterness at all. It's a pattern. A long, documented, multi-year pattern. Remy was asked about the end of the marriage and she didn't hesitate. She described a man who was, her words, in between jobs. A man whose big executive position, the one everybody points to as proof that Papoose is a businessman, wasn't actually a paycheck. According to Remy, Papoose wasn't even drawing a salary from that job. He was getting a percentage of subscriptions. A commission. Which meant his entire income depended on other people promoting the platform, and that is where the story goes from sad to genuinely unbelievable. Because according to Remy, Papoose was furious with her. And not about the marriage. Not about the family. He was furious because she wouldn't post. That's right. Remy Ma, a woman with over 11 million followers, one of the most recognizable female rappers of her generation, said that her husband wanted her to use her platform, her audience, her 11 million followers, to promote the company he was trying to lock down a job with. He wanted her to tell her fans to subscribe. And she refused. She told him, flat out, to have the company posted on their own page. And according to her, that refusal is part of why he was so bitter. Let that sink in. The man was not earning a check. He was earning a percentage of other people's subscriptions, and his plan, his actual financial strategy, was for his superstar wife to advertise his side arrangement to her 11 million followers so his commission would go up. That was the play. That's the business acumen everybody keeps telling us about. The man wasn't building an empire. He was trying to turn his wife's fanbase into his personal ATM, and when she said no, he held it against her. Now remember, this is the same man who later got on camera and said, with a straight face, "Show me one post of her saying subscribe." He said it like it was proof she was never supportive. But Remy had already explained why that post never existed. She wasn't being unsupportive. She was refusing to be used. There's a difference, and that difference is the entire story. But wait, because we haven't even gotten to the part that made everybody's jaw hit the floor. See, for a long time, the public story about the end of this marriage was messy but vague. People took sides. Some said she left him. Some said he was done wrong. There was a whole narrative that she abandoned a good man. And then Remy Ma went on camera and calmly blew that narrative to pieces. She said, in her own words, that he was cheating. That during the marriage, while he was supposedly solidifying that job, he was also solidifying something else, over there, with somebody else. And she knew. She said she knew. And this is where you have to understand something about how Remy moved, because it explains everything happening right now. She didn't explode. She didn't go live. She didn't make a scene. She played her role. She let him have his moments. She smiled, she posted, she stood next to him at events, and all the while she was adding it up. Stacking it. Filing it away. Because some people don't fight the battle the day it starts. Some people wait. They document. They let the other person build the whole case against themselves, and then they pick the moment. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because we are watching the exact same energy play out right now with divorce court on the horizon. Remy Ma didn't lose her composure. She lost her patience on a schedule. There's a difference. And here's the detail that ties the whole thing together. The moment she caught him, really caught him, things didn't get louder. They got quieter. She cut him off. And when he later went on camera trying to claim they hadn't been intimate since some date he made up, she shut that down too. She said that was a lie. But the bigger point was the one she didn't have to say out loud. Once she understood what she was dealing with, once she understood that the man in her house was building a whole second life while she was paying for the first one, she closed the vault. The money, the access, the intimacy, the support, all of it, gone. And everything Papoose has done since, the lives, the speeches, the woe is me monologues, has been the reaction of a man who lost access to the thing he was actually married to. And spoiler alert, it wasn't Remy. And now we arrive at the response. Because after Remy Ma told her side, calmly, specifically, with dates and details, Papoose decided to tell his. And y'all, this is where the whole thing goes from a divorce story to a masterclass in self-destruction. Because everything he said in his defense ended up confirming her case. Every single point. It's like watching a man testify against himself and call it a victory speech. Let's start with the money, because that's where he started. Papoose got on camera and declared that he paid every bill in that household. Every bill. That's a big claim. A strong, man of the house, provider claim. And on the surface, it sounds like exactly the kind of thing that would answer the question we've been circling this whole video. What does Papoose do? Oh, he pays the bills. Case closed, right? Not even close. Because the moment you look at that claim for longer than 3 seconds, it falls apart. See, when people hear I paid the bills, they picture the mortgage. The rent. The big number. The 4-figure monster that comes due on the first of the month. But there's a whole universe of bills underneath that one. The light bill. The gas bill. The water. And here's what anybody who has ever run a household already knows: you can put something on a bill without paying the bill. You can slide a little money on the light bill this month, a little more next month, and technically, legally, truthfully say you pay the bills. Meanwhile, the actual roof, the actual four walls, the actual thousands of dollars a month that keep a family housed, somebody else is carrying that. And by all accounts, that somebody else was Remy Ma. So when he stood on camera and beat his chest about paying bills, the question that should have been asked, the question nobody asked, was which bills and how much. Put a price on it. If you paid the household, name the household. Because saying I paid bills is like saying I made payments. On what? A light bill and a streaming subscription is not a household, sir. But he wasn't done. Not even close. Because then came the gifts. Papoose said he did nothing but buy her gifts. He said there were photos. He said it was all on his page. And then he said something that he absolutely did not think through, and I need y'all to catch this, because this is the moment where his whole speech ate itself alive. He said that she just recently told him she doesn't have any money. And he said it like it exposed her. Like it proved she was a liar. Hold on. Run that back. Your wife, the breadwinner, the one paying the actual mortgage, the one with the career and the catalog and the 11 million followers, told you she doesn't have money, and your takeaway was that she was lying about being broke? Sir. She wasn't confessing. She was declining. She was telling you the vault is closed. Because in the middle of explaining why his marriage fell apart, Papoose decided the best strategy was to tell the world that his wife was, and I'm going to use his energy carefully here, behaving in a way that was not respectable. He danced around the word. He teased the word. He did the whole should I say it, should I not say it routine, like he was being noble. And then he basically said it anyway. He stood in front of the world and implied, on camera, that the mother of his child was promiscuous. Let's be very clear about what that is. That is not a defense. That is not context. That is a man setting fire to his own wife's reputation and calling it honesty. There is a reason they say you have the right to remain silent, because anything you say can and will be used against you, and Papoose used his right to speech to do maximum damage to the one person whose reputation still pays for the life he was living. Who does that help? Not the kids. Not the family. Not him, legally, because every word of that speech is now a courtroom document. The only thing that speech accomplished was showing the world exactly why Remy Ma finally let him go. She wasn't leaving a husband. She was leaving a liability. And the irony, the absolutely blinding irony, is that in the very same speech where he was counting her sins, he confessed his own. He stood there and told the world he was keeping score. He said he could run through a body count. Sir. You were counting? While married? While supposedly fighting for your family, you were keeping a ledger? That is not the behavior of a wounded husband. That is the behavior of a man building a file. And notice what he didn't do. He didn't leave. He didn't confront it and walk out with his dignity. He stayed, he counted, he documented, and he waited, the exact same thing he accused her of doing. The difference is she was documenting to protect herself. He was documenting to destroy her later. Same notebook. Different intentions. But nothing, and I mean nothing, tops the knockout story. According to Papoose, the moment everything exploded was when he caught her with another man at her own event, and he knocked the man out. He tells this story with pride, like it's proof of his love, proof of his passion, proof that he was the real one in the marriage. And for a second, if you squint, you can almost see the movie version of it. But then reality walks in, because the man he knocked out wasn't just some random guy. That was her artist. That was the face of her battle league. That was a business asset, a piece of her empire that she had built from nothing, and Papoose put hands on it in public, at her event, in front of everybody. So let's do the math he never did. He knocked out her artist, which torched her business. He humiliated her at her own event, which torched her brand. And then he told the story on camera, which torched whatever was left. And through all of it, he genuinely seems to believe he was the victim. Sir, you didn't defend your marriage. You detonated it. You took the one thing she built that didn't involve you, and you broke it because your ego couldn't survive the idea that she might not need you. That's not love. That's ownership. And when ownership gets threatened, it doesn't protect the asset. It breaks it so nobody else can have it. And that brings us all the way back around to Claressa Shields, because this is where the two stories collide. While Papoose was busy litigating his old marriage on camera, his new relationship was quietly becoming the exact same situation with a different name on the checks. Because now the questions are following her. Is he your manager? Is he getting a piece of your fight money? Is he living off of you? And she's had to answer every single one, publicly, over and over, while he stays silent and lets her carry it. She said he's not her manager. She said he gets no percentage. She said the rumors about him being in her pockets are lies. And I want y'all to really hear what she was doing in that moment, because it wasn't just a denial. It was a declaration. That was a woman drawing a line in public before the history books could repeat themselves. She has watched, just like we all have, what happened to the last woman. She has seen the receipts about the bills, the commissions, the subscriptions, the 11 million followers being treated like a marketing department. And she got in front of it. She said, not me. Not my money. Not my pockets. My pockets, in her own words, must be slim. She joked about it, but jokes like that are armor. That was the champ telling the world, and maybe telling him, you are not going to do to me what you did to her. And yet, here's the uncomfortable part nobody in her corner wants to say out loud. If he's not the manager, and he's not on the payroll, and he's not earning a check anywhere we can see, then what is he doing? What is the day-to-day? What does the schedule look like? Because from the outside, the visible resume is this: he shows up when she's winning, he disappears when she's questioned, and he lets her answer for a life he won't explain. That is not a partner. That is a passenger. And a passenger with a history of turning the driver's success into his own personal revenue stream. Now, is it possible there's an innocent explanation? Sure. Maybe he's a full-time father. Maybe he's managing things behind the scenes that we can't see. Maybe there's a whole quiet business operation that nobody has bothered to document. But here's the thing about that. It's been over a year of public questions now, and not one single person has been able to produce the answer. Not a journalist whose literal job is research. Not a wife of nearly 2 decades. And not the champion currently sharing his last name in the headlines. At some point, the absence of an answer becomes the answer. And let's talk about the timing, because the timing is the most Papoose part of this entire story. While all of these questions are swirling, while his name is trending for all the wrong reasons, while the champ is getting grilled about him in every interview, what is he doing? He's dropping verses in the car. Rapping. Filming himself. Doing the one thing that has never once paid the bills in this entire saga. Sir, the country does not need another freestyle. The country needs a W-2. We are not asking for bars. We are asking for a job description. The audacity of being unable to explain your income while simultaneously finding studio time is a level of confidence that honestly deserves its own documentary. Because understand what the optics are here. You have a 2-time Olympic champion, an undisputed world champion, a woman who built herself from Flint, Michigan into a global brand, sitting in interviews doing damage control about a man who will not do his own damage control. She is fighting the questions he won't face. She is spending her credibility defending a situation he created and refuses to clarify. And the whole time, his own unfinished divorce is the reason he can't speak, which means she is taking fire for a war that started in somebody else's marriage. That's the part that should make everybody pause. Because this isn't just about what Papoose does for a living. It's about what he's doing to her living. Every interview she gives now includes a Papoose question. Every headline about her now includes his name. Every comment section under her posts is full of people asking things he could answer in one post and won't. Her brand, the thing she spent her entire life building, is slowly being rebranded around a question mark wearing a do-rag. And he is letting it happen, because silence protects him while it costs her. But we need to go back to one more claim from that infamous response video, because it might be the wildest one of all, and almost nobody stopped on it long enough. When Papoose was defending his financial contribution to the marriage, he let something slip that the entire internet ran right past. He said, and I quote the energy here, that he has a cash business. A cash business. Sir. In the year of our Lord, with the IRS watching, with a divorce attorney somewhere taking notes, this man stood on camera and announced that his income comes from a cash business. Do you understand what a divorce lawyer does with a sentence like that? Discovery exists for exactly this reason. The first question in that deposition writes itself. Wonderful. Name the business. Show the books. Where is it registered? Who are the clients? What does it sell? A cash business that nobody can name is not a business. It's a sentence you say when the real answer is a person, and that person was Remy Ma. And while we're here, we have to address the songwriting claim, because this is where the mask really slipped. Papoose told the world he wrote 90% of the music during their time together. 90%. He even said you could type a keyword from any of her verses and it would pop up in his phone with a date attached. Now, put aside for 1 second whether that's true, because it doesn't actually matter. What matters is what it reveals. That wasn't a husband sharing a creative partnership. That was a man keeping receipts on his own wife's career. Every verse, logged. Every lyric, time-stamped. He wasn't collaborating. He was documenting. Building a file on the very success he was living off of, so that one day, when the money stopped, he could stand in front of the world and say that her catalog, the thing Remy Ma bled for, was really his. And y'all wonder why she waited so patiently. She wasn't just leaving a marriage. She was escaping a man who had been preparing to take credit for her life's work the entire time. Now contrast all of that with how Claressa Shields is moving, because the contrast is the whole lesson. When the rumors said Papoose was managing her, Claressa Shields didn't get defensive about her relationship. She got specific about her money. Not my manager. No percentage. Nothing from my checks. She drew the line exactly where Remy Ma eventually wished she had drawn it years earlier, at the bank account. Because Remy Ma has already testified, in her own words, about what the financial entanglement looked like from the inside. The commissions. The requested posts. The subscriptions he needed her 11 million followers to buy so his percentage would grow. Claressa Shields watched all of that play out in public, same as we did, and she made sure the world knew there was no pipeline from her purse to his pocket. That's not paranoia. That's a woman who studied the tape. Champions watch film. And Claressa Shields clearly watched the film on the last relationship, because every move she's made publicly has been about one thing: keeping her money out of the blast radius. And yet, even with all that discipline, Claressa Shields is still the one sitting in those interview chairs. Still the one getting asked if she's with somebody's husband. Still the one laughing off questions about a grown man's occupation like it's a riddle nobody can solve. She can guard her bank account all she wants, but her name is the one attached to the question mark now. Her searches, her comments, her headlines. When people Google the champ today, they don't just find knockouts and title defenses anymore. They find a debate about what her boyfriend does all day. That's the tax he doesn't pay and she does. And there's one more layer to this that makes the whole thing even harder to watch, and that's what this is doing to the legacy conversation around Claressa Shields. Because understand what this woman represents. 2 Olympic gold medals. Undisputed in multiple weight classes. A woman who walked out of Flint with nothing and built herself into one of the most decorated fighters, man or woman, of this entire generation. Her story was supposed to be the clean one. The inspirational one. The one they make movies about. And now, at the height of her powers, the biggest storyline attached to her name isn't a title fight. It's a trivia question about her boyfriend's employment status. That's not an accident. That's gravity. When you attach yourself to an unresolved situation, you inherit its weather. And this situation came with a whole storm system, an unfinished divorce, a public scorekeeper, a cash business nobody can name, and a trail of interviews where the women closest to him all shrugged the same shrug. Meanwhile, somewhere on the other side of this, Remy Ma is watching all of it unfold with the calm of a woman who already lived the movie and knows exactly how it ends. Every time Claressa Shields answers one of those questions, every time the internet asks what that man does, Remy Ma gets a little more vindicated without saying a word. That's the thing about documentation. It doesn't expire. Those clips of Remy Ma explaining the commissions, the subscriptions, the in-between years, they don't age. They ferment. Every new interview the champ gives just pours another glass. And Papoose is stuck in the middle of it, unable to defend yesterday without incriminating today, unable to protect today without exposing yesterday, watching two women's interviews slowly braid together into one long answer to the question he will never touch. And think about how we even got here, because the route matters. This didn't start with a diss track. It didn't start with a scandal or an arrest or a leaked tape. It started with a grown woman being asked, politely, in a professional setting, what her man does for a living. That's it. That's the spark. That's the whole match that lit this fire. The most ordinary question in the English language, the kind of thing you get asked at a cookout, at a job interview, at a first date. And it behaved like a grenade. Because when a question that simple can't be answered, the question stops being the story. The silence becomes the story. The shrugs become the story. Three women with every reason to know, and every opportunity to say, and all the world got was stammers, jokes, and a 2-decade resume that evaporates the second anybody looks directly at it. That's not bad luck. That's not media bias. That's what it looks like when the truth has been standing in plain sight the entire time, waiting for somebody, anybody, to just ask. So now let's zoom all the way out and look at the full board, because when you put every piece in place, the picture is honestly stunning. Three women. A world-class journalist with a research team, a wife of nearly 20 years, and the greatest women's boxer alive. Three women who, between them, have more access to this man than anybody on the planet. And not one of them can tell you what Papoose does. Not one of them can point to a paycheck, a position, a business, a job, a title, anything. The journalist couldn't find it. The wife said it never really existed. And the champion just told the world he's not what everybody assumed he was. That is not a coincidence. That is not a smear campaign. That is a consensus. And the word everybody keeps dancing around, the word the entire internet has been whispering under every clip, is a word that would be defamatory if it wasn't being supplied by the man's own life. Because look at the pattern laid end to end. In the marriage, according to Remy, he needed her platform to earn. He needed her posts, her followers, her fame, to convert into his commission. And when she refused, the marriage curdled. Now, in this new chapter, the questions are identical. Is he earning? Is he on the payroll? Is he living off her? Different woman. Same questions. Same silence. Same invisible income. At some point we have to stop calling it a mystery and start calling it a method. Because here's the thing about the kind of man who can't explain what he does. It's never that he does nothing. It's that what he does can't survive daylight. Every answer he could give creates a new problem. Say he's her manager, and now the champ is a liar on camera. Say he lives off her, and now the divorce court has a number to work with. Say he has his own business, and now everybody wants to see it. There is no answer that doesn't cost him something. So he says nothing. He raps in the car. He lets the women in his life absorb the questions like body armor, and he calls it love. And meanwhile, the divorce clock is ticking. Every single day this drags on is another day of depositions, documents, and discovery. And discovery is the one place where the question "what do you do for a living" is not rhetorical. In that courtroom, the question gets answered. With tax returns. With bank records. With pay stubs or the glaring absence of them. Whatever the truth is, it is written down somewhere, and eventually somebody is going to read it out loud in a room where he can't walk off camera. Now, let me be fair for 1 second, because the story deserves it. Maybe Papoose is a great father. Maybe he's a supportive presence. Maybe behind closed doors he brings something to that champion's life that doesn't show up on a resume. I am not here to tell that woman who to love. But I am here to notice that love shouldn't require a woman to become a human shield. It shouldn't require her to answer questions he won't touch. And it definitely shouldn't require her to stand in front of the world insisting her pockets are slim while the man beside her has no visible way to fill his own. So the real question, the only question, is the one that started all of this. The one that froze a champion, stumped a journalist, and was answered by an ex-wife with the words in between jobs. What does Papoose do for a living? And I want you to answer it, because clearly the people closest to him can't. Drop your theory in the comments. Is he a businessman with a paper trail nobody's found? Is he a manager with no clients and no cuts? Or is the truth exactly what it looks like, that the job was always the women,